pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. First thing on the agenda is the consent agenda.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the consent agenda. Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Then I want to amend the agenda. We are going to move item I to between B and C. And we are going to eliminate 3A from the agenda.
Do you need a motion for that? Okay.
All right, so we're gonna move on. Our first scheduled session is with Matt Wyatt, Planning and Development, and Pam Colstrip. Public hearing on the proposed preliminary plat of Schmitz Creek. Phase 1, Phase 2 subdivision situated in Hazeldale Township, and to approve and authorize the board to sign planning and zoning resolution 2022-03. I'll entertain a motion to open public hearing.
Second.
Becky, you call the roll, please.
That's Chairman Lichtman.
Aye.
Supervisor Shea.
Yeah.
Belt. Groby.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
All right, we're now in a public hearing. Anyone here speaking in favor of the Schmitz Creek Phase 1 and 2?
I thought they were coming, but I don't see them.
Anyone speaking opposed to Schmitz Creek Phase 1 and 2? All right,
Oh, there's no written roll.
I'll entertain a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second. Becky, you call the roll, please.
Chairman Lichtman.
Aye.
Supervisor Shea.
Aye.
Belt.
Aye.
Can you hold the vote? I'm sure he's in the vote.
Matt, you want to make a couple comments on that for me, please?
I sure can. This was subdivision, minor subdivision opportunity that came up based on our code changes, allowing for minor subdivisions off of those official bituminous roads on Badger Avenue. And it has proven and continues to prove a good way to get us a few more houses out in rural parts of the county on road surfaces that the board's designated that they're going to keep as so-coded roads. At the same time, we do take into considerations those aspects of how many entrances they have on and off of those roads. These subdivisions are required to share driveways in there. I think Badger Avenue is a heavily traveled road. It's kind of a cut through that comes between Underwood, but it's also one of those scenic areas that people want to go out and construct their country homes in for acreages. And so this was an opportunity that came up, I believe, through, this farm had been held by one family for a number of years, and I believe somebody passed away, so when it finally went up for sale, this couple came in and purchased it, and they're gonna build a couple houses out there. They'll also have a couple of lots. I think they're building houses for themselves and a friend, and then they'll have a couple other lots available too that they're currently trying to market now, so. I think it works out good for our housing.
What's the total houses on there?
5 lots.
5?
Mhm.
Okay, not 6.
Okay, any other questions for Matt? All right, then I'll entertain a motion to approve and authorize the board to sign planning and zoning resolution 2022-03.
So moved. Second.
All right, any other discussion? Becky, you call the roll, please.
Chairman Lichtman. Supervisors Belt.
Aye.
Groby.
Aye.
Shea.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
Thank you.
Moving on to item B, again, we have Matt Wyatt, Planning and Development, and Pam Colstrip. A public hearing on the first consideration of ordinance 2022-01, an ordinance to amend the official zoning map of Potawatomi County, Iowa, by changing the district designation of approximately 35.84 acres from Class A3 to Class I1. and setting date for second consideration. Motion to open public hearing.
I'll move.
Second.
Chairman Wickman,
Aye.
Supervisors Belt,
Aye.
Groby,
Aye.
Shea,
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, we are now in a public hearing. Anybody speaking, would like to speak about the changing from A3 to I1? Anyone opposed? I'll entertain a motion to close public hearing.
I'll move.
Second, just there was no written or oral.
Did you learn that from Chad? Becky, you call the roll, please.
Learned from Robert's rules, actually.
Chairman Wickman,
Aye.
It's written back in your board.
Supervisor Schultz,
Aye.
Shea,
Aye.
Groby,
Aye.
Belt.
Matt, you want to make a couple comments on that for me? Or let me see, Pam, would you like to make a couple comments on that for me?
Okay, so this property is down by the industrial subdivision. It went up for sale recently. John Cox with Cox Contracting asked if it could be rezoned before they put in their purchase offer. So that we're just attempting to rezone it to I1. Fits in with that area. The city commented that if they want to further subdivide it, it would have to go through be annexed and become part of the city. Based on what the Coxes had told me, that wasn't their plan initially. They just wanted to get it prepped.
If the city, for that, to make a requirement of annexation, if they subdivide it, that's gonna be based on whether they put sanitary sewer in, right?
I don't think they have to provide those services.
That's what we did for the Armstrong development, right?
They have septic systems.
The Armstrong Development did sign, they're in agreement with them, that, with the city of Council Bluffs for voluntary annexation, provided that sewer is running by the property or a certain time frame. I can't exactly tell you what that, part of it was. And I believe that's kind of the same reaction that the city would more than likely have if they had, somebody who was interested in this property to do, and it's strictly for the subdivision part of it. If they want to chop it up into smaller areas, then with it being in the 2-mile jurisdiction of the city of Council Bluffs, this being one of their high priority areas, then, and it butts, basically it butts the city, then they want to be able to annex that in. So they either have to work out, the developer would either have to go work out an agreement with the city of Council Bluffs, like Armstrong did, or the only way we would have to approve for a subdivision is with them annexing it in, so.
So the Cox family or persons, they understand like what this change means as far as what they can and
Yeah,
can't do and all
I
that.
shared the letter from city planning with Katie Cox.
Was that old railroad through there?
It is an old abandoned rail line that runs through there, and I know the Armstrong development was able to get the city to grant that back to them, and I just don't know that the other property owners have attempted to go that route.
I think Katie said that they did attempt to do that, but if they went that far, then they would have to annex at that point. I don't know why. And Katie's not here that I see. Are you John?
I'm John.
Okay. It's closed now though, so.
So I mean, it needs to be rezoned if we're gonna consider any kind of commercial development down there, right? So it's not like we're stepping out of line here.
No,
It's in the future land use plan for Potawatomi County. That whole area is in reserve for industrial development. So this is right in line with the county land use plan and the zoning that's already down in there in other areas, so we're fine.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the second word here, ordinance 2022-01.
First consideration, right?
Yes, first consideration, thank you.
And then we're gonna put second consideration for.
When do you want that?
the
Yeah.
22nd.
You don't like that? What do
No,
you
I
want?
won't be here, but I'll probably just have to call him.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll work.
So you setting the second consideration for the 22nd of February at 10 o'clock.
All right. Becky, call the roll, please.
Chairman Whitman. Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Shay.
Yep.
Groby.
Aye.
Belt.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, so now I'm going to move that item I up. So Jason Slack, Director of Buildings and Grounds, update on the Courthouse Addition project. Jason, you're up.
Well, construction is progressing right along. We're getting close to the end of our concrete pours. They should be starting to sling some steel this week. We just received another shipment of steel out there just now this morning. So that part of it's moving right along. Our boiler's installed. It's gonna service that addition. We've got a hot water pump and a chilled water pump that have been installed. So our HVAC and electrical has been moving along behind the scenes, getting done what they can get done within the building. Contractors are trying to stay ahead of the materials that have long lead times. So we've, like garage doors, that was one of the points of contention with the last remodel. So the garage doors have been ordered. And there's just certain materials that have a longer lead time. We've had 4 change orders so far with this project. First one being the steel increases, which was around $76,000. And then the second one was the schedule modifications, which added 211 days to the total contract. The third one was the decline that we did on the chiller and heating pipe change. We just declined that a couple weeks ago. And then change order number 4 was changing the condensing unit for the crack unit that's going in the 911 server room. So, and that was a credit of $4,560. Right now, I've asked HGM for a change, and they're supposed to be writing some up, and we should be getting numbers on this. But as you can see there on the north side of the courthouse, and on the south side of the courthouse, where that drive that goes around is not getting concreted, and that asphalt that's there is in pretty bad shape. So I've asked them to finish doing the concrete all the way to South 6th Street and to 5th Avenue. So we have new concrete all the way around the courthouse in that alley area.
That's that yellow line.
Yeah. Then I've also asked them, we're wanting to change that north door that goes into the treasurer's office to a loading ramp for a loading dock, so we can put license plates up there. So it'd be a lot smoother process for Lee.
Is it your recommendation to put the concrete change order with this project and not done outside of it?
It is.
Why is that?
While they're here on site, they're already mobilized. We're not paying another company to come on site and mobilize. I just think it's gonna save us some money there.
So did the steel arrive sooner than we expected?
It arrived right on time. It was supposed to arrive in February. That's when they expected it to be here, so.
So that's not gonna change our completion date?
No, we're on schedule. So, HGM,
Has warmer weather helped that? I would assume that we've had some really good weeks. I'm assuming that's.
It has.
Some things up for us, right?
yeah, it hasn't really, they didn't indicate that it's put them ahead of schedule, but
Okay.
they did indicate that we are on schedule.
We're like going into another kind of what they call warmer spell, I suppose, you
Yep.
know?
But the steel that was the issue was the flooring steel?
Yeah, it was the bar joist in the steel decking.
Is the what's sitting in the queue out there?
Yep. So, HGM reached out to Jim Hall to see if we could stock some of our roofing material over there in the services building lot. They're working together on that. Jim said he would be wrapping up there, within a week or two. So,
I mean, by the 1st of March, you'll be out of there?
I'm hoping so.
Good, all things considered.
Maybe we can get, Amazon or Prime to get our steel for us. They seem to.
Okay.
They seem to be flying, it seems to be flying where they are.
Oh, yeah.
Our ramp enclosure is due to be dismantled here at the end of March. Council Bluffs Fire Department did reach out to me, indicating that they wanted that thing to be sprinkled. They weren't going to, make us do it this time, being we're gonna take it down in March, but I think we're gonna run into an issue in the fall when we go to re-erect that thing, with them wanting it to be sprinkled for fire.
Okay.
We'll do something different then.
Yeah.
But, yeah, general fire has some options we might be able to use to hit
Yeah.
that goal without having to run water lines out there. Cause here's the problem, you run pipe out there and you gotta run heat trace out there, you're gonna have to heat that thing.
You'd have to put a dry system in.
Yeah.
And then if our system's even big enough, then, you know, we would have to upgrade our service, so. We don't wanna, I don't think we wanna go there.
No. Okay.
So what was the trigger for that?
What's that?
What was the trigger that they didn't want it before, and now they want it now?
Well, they asked me if we had a code analysis done on it, and we did not. So,
Temporary construction, why would we?
yeah,
I don't understand.
I didn't understand either, and I don't know what provoked them to reach out to me about it. But it's something we're gonna have to address, I guess, in the fall.
I'd like to see another building out there, literally in the metro area, with a scaffold like we have out there. I don't know what's
Sorry.
storage structure, so it's kinda
Did
weird.
HM design that deal, or?
They did the ramp, they didn't do any engineering on that scaffold.
Okay, I might follow up with you on that one afterward, and maybe we'll have a little chat with the fire department.
Well, that's all I have for the courthouse edition.
So you said March you're gonna disassemble it?
Yeah.
Do they only want, it sprinkled if it's got the boards on it then?
Yeah, they're saying it's combustible material and it has to have fire protection.
We
Okay.
can wrap it in plastic instead.
So if we did something that wasn't plywood next time, we could avert it.
See what our options are, would you?
Yeah, we'll have to look into it.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, thanks, you guys.
Okay.
Jason, do you have any other updates for us?
Veterans of Air Building, the mold remediation just keeps going on down there. Right now, they're waiting on the plastic paneling that they need to put back on the walls there in the NPR room. So there was quite a bit of lead time on that material. It should be in hopefully this week.
Is this all wrapped up plastic and stuff in there, or are they?
Yeah, they still got the containment on the east side of that NPR room.
Yeah.
So, and then, hopefully services building demo will be done here, in a week or two, by the end of the month. We've paid out $40,000 to Jim's Hauling so far on that project. As far as the air handler replacement project, our pre-bid walkthrough is today at 11. And then, we're doing a bid opening on Thursday, February 24th. So we'll have numbers on that next week. And then, Treasurer's office remodel's moving right along. We got the countertop installed Saturday. Carpet's supposed to be in 2 weeks. They'll get that installed. That thing's moving along.
That's looking good.
Yep. So that's about all I've got.
So, back to is the loading dock, and then the two concrete pours, 3 separate items, or,
I asked them to lump it all together.
okay.
How many square feet is that?
I'm not sure exactly on that square footage. We'll know a number though on it once we get a bid, because HDM will have to issue an ASI, and then MECO Henny will have to get numbers together, and then the change will have to come to the board for approval, so we should know square footage at that point.
Maybe they should be broken into 2 separate projects, the loading dock and the pouring of the concretes, but.
I just know that asphalt's not in
No,
very
I
good shape.
understand, I understand what you're saying there. You're not going back, there's not gonna be parking over there anymore, up against the building, is there?
There will be some parking on the north side there, on both sides of the generators that are sitting there.
There will be.
Yep.
Okay.
So, How's your load, is your loading dock gonna come from the north?
It's already, well, it's basically already there. They've got steps that go up to a platform and then goes into the north side of the treasurer's office. We just want to remove the parapet wall that they've got around that thing and probably put a railing in with a gate,
The removal one or something?
Yep.
Yeah.
just so we can get, pallets up there with the forklift.
Okay.
Any other questions
Thank you.
for Jason?
Thanks, Jason.
We're planning on getting on the agenda in a couple months and update us again.
Yep.
Would.
Okay.
All right, Jason, thank you so much. Next up on the agenda, item C is Andy Brown, Sheriff, Jeff Doolan, Chief Deputy. Discussion and decision to approve and authorize the chairman to sign 2 change orders for the sheriff expansion. Andy, you're up.
Well, do you have this in front of you or not, what the change orders were?
Yep.
Okay, so it looks like we, of course, went from beams to trusses, is that correct, or? The shortage of metal back in, when we made the decision on, it was gonna be a little more expensive to do the beams because they couldn't get the trusses in.
We approved that already, didn't we? Jeff?
Thought we did.
We talked about it.
Yeah, we talked about it.
Okay. Yep,
And
okay.
then our big one, of course, there was a mix-up, apparently, when it came to the underground fiber optics. We kind of went back and forth with them about how it wasn't our fault essentially, but then came to the conclusion that regardless of what would have happened, it would have been on the front end anyway, but that was the big ticket item of $150,000, having to move the exterior wall to avoid essentially all the wires coming into the building. So, and then plus another, what was it, 40,000 for the, 20,000 or 40,000 for the locker room that we wanted to expand a little bit because we would have ran out of room.
That 150 wasn't a change order, was it?
It should be.
I don't recall that one.
Where we at here, this is your folder, you guys want to say about it?
It's, the way I read change order G701 2017 is they put 191,000 to the changes of the women's locker and men's locker room. That's not correct. 151,000 was the move the wall 18 inches and 40-some thousand was the locker room changes. So Andy had talked to you guys about the locker room changes. I assume it was in July or August.
It was a while ago, but it's, because
We-
everything's taken so long, so.
We fought hard, and I gotta give a shout out to Ben Shudak, because he really helped us out with this. We didn't think we owed for that 150,000. We thought it was a mistake by the surveyor and by the contractor that we should not have to pay for. And frankly, the architects didn't back us on it. They said there's an 18-inch variance that they can go by on either side of the survey line. And because it was within that 18 inches, we were stuck with it. So that's the one that we're not real excited about, but if I can't get the architects to back me, I don't know how I can fight. And we can send you the email trails on that if you want to see them.
I'd like to see him.
Okay, I can send them to you, sure.
It looks to me like the original contract sum was 2.754. Now the new one is 3,056,000. I think what we're approving today is, it looks like, associated with, which Jason was here, with power camera and security relocates. Is that correct? I
We
see-
don't have that on our change orders. That was from if that's the Genetech accurate control stuff, that was off a different bond issue. That was off the bond issue that was originally for the Genetech camera system. I showed 269,000 change
That's correct.
to take it to 3,056,000.
That's correct. And
Okay.
now there is new change orders in the amount of 31,000, almost 32,000.
Yes, that was the second branch. That was,
That 32,000 consists of 9,000 for
Power relocation,
Power relocation.
all off when they found out that we were in a dump site and they had to haul old cars out of our basement.
Yep, that's 24.
The PRO 06 and 007, I can't speak to that. I don't know what that is, but then we got a $13,000 credit back from the flooring. Because we changed the flooring in the workout space.
What'd you change it to?
We just bought the flooring from the workout contractor guys.
Same flooring, it was just cheaper to go through
It's
the,
cheaper to go through that.
yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the change orders.
I'll second that.
What was the, on the original bid, what was the contingency amount, do you know?
Scott, I don't think there was a contingency on this bid, was there?
That's what I was wondering.
I don't recall one.
Really?
I thought this one was like crazy high, wasn't it? Or am I thinking of a different project? Remember there was one that was like 10% and then we had another that was 20, I think this one was.
The radio project had a pretty good sized one, but this one I don't think had one.
Really?
Are you talking like that original, well, like.
Yeah, the
gift from
original
HGM
bid
sometimes?
that the DLR would have came in with.
I mean, I can go back and look at that. I have the documentation.
Usually, usually they always have a
There was a contingency built in.
contingency in there. I wouldn't see anything for.
Because this was that bizarre financing thing where we had kind of done half bonds and we did our seized asset money and.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, if you want to check on that. Jeff,
Yep,
that'd be great.
I can check on it.
Thank you.
Mitch, we paid for our half out of the land fund. This wasn't a bond.
No, it wasn't a bond. We used, we did use some of our ARPA money for that as well. I think between that and the shooting range, we kind of combined those
So
in
where's
the
the
same
new,
project.
where's the money for the change orders coming from?
What did we approve up to? Are you saying we only approved up to 275 when we did this?
That's correct.
I think that sounds right. So I do think there needs, going into our next budget, I do believe that needs to be put back into the land fund.
Probably gonna have to come. I'd rather use like funds, so I'd probably prefer we do ARPA. That wasn't spent, because you used it on the first 9 or whatever, right? There's some left of that,
Yeah, there is some.
so I would say we use some of that remainder of that.
Matt, or Justin,
I don't care, it doesn't
you
matter.
made the motion to move forward. Mitch, will you come back to the board and at the next meeting, let us know where those funds are coming from? Is that all right with you, Justin?
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me, as long as it's not home.
I know, I would just say, for the 22 and 23 budget, I think we carried over from what expenses have already been paid on it. And based off of that 2.7, in the current budget as we have it written right now, proposed anyway, the remainder is coming out of the land fund because we transferred their funds into the land fund to make up for it. So we can decide either way, which way it comes from, but.
We'll take your recommendation.
Yeah.
I don't know, just driving by you drive by the facility, it's starting to look like something and it's kind of cool.
Still basement walls.
Yeah, we're trying to get them to hurry up.
Well, I mean, you look out our window out here, it seems like progress is generally about the same. I mean, what's your guys' timeline, have they said?
Well, originally, we were supposed to be in March.
Yeah.
But-
So original movement was
Yeah.
March, now we're to August, so.
But we lost concrete to Google and Facebook for how many weeks, and then it's just been the power relocation was a big deal.
Well, does it look like this is the end of, I mean, because they've uncovered the ground, usually don't know what's under the ground.
Yeah.
This should be the end of the.
I would challenge anybody to see what was uncovered at our place as opposed to any other construction project ever. I'm not lying when I said a car came out of the basement.
Couple refrigerators, a Buick,
I don't know how old I was, but the whole thing was,
Brian, you second that?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's old
yeah.
refrigerators, everything, so.
And going to the power relocation too, we did pay for that out of a bond that was about ready to expire in March. I think it was like 40,000 or
Right.
something like that.
Right.
That actually gets reimbursed to us over the next 5 years from American Energy.
Oh, cool.
So,
Okay.
Okay, any
Motion second.
other discussion for Andy or Jeff?
No,
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, moving on. Next up, we have Andy Brown and Steve Winchell, a budget discussion. Mitch, you.
Same one, I brought copies for you guys, but I'm guessing it's the same. 37.5, yeah, it's the exact same.
Okay, Andy and, it's Captain, right? Captain Winchell. The reason I wanted you guys to come in, there was some discussion with the board on the amount of jail employees you requested in your budget. I wanted to get you in and get you out of here so we didn't take all of your day. But I think you put in 5, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
What's the minimum number you can make work?
I would say we could do 4, and the goal there is to get 1 per team, and that will help us with our force outs and our call-ins, and I have some stats if you would like to hear them.
Yeah.
So, comparing to last year, in this 6-week window from January 1 till today, we had 22 force outs in 6 weeks. We had force overs, for people calling in sick. We have, to maintain our minimum numbers, we have to keep people in the building. The same time frame this year, we have done 5. So now it's a small snapshot, but what we believe with our, talking with my supervisors, and actually Garfield and I talked on Friday, our call-ins are going down, which is what our goal was when we start addressing some of these things and building our culture. So this is it's a small snapshot, but it's helping us point to what we're doing. And that ties into the numbers that we're asking for. The 5 was the 4 that we really need per team to help with our staffing. And the additional was because of our staff with retirees that we have come up, we always seem to be perpetually 1 or 2 behind on paper, and then that would give us a person to plug where we could. But we would gladly give up that 1 if I can at least get the 4. And additionally, when we did the restructure, when Sheriff made that decision, we went to 2 positions. And so effectively, we have given up a $137,000 position. So on paper, we're really only asking for about 2.5 versus the actual 4 because of that position that we are not filling.
Do you guys understand force outs? That's when we have to call somebody and say, you don't get to go home today. You have to stay here. Which we think, and I think I'll let the sheriff talk to it, but absolutely horrible to the morale. So it's, you think you got the day off, you're done for the day, whatever. No, you're staying here another 4 hours because we don't have enough people to work here. So that's what we're trying to do.
Generally, it's the day shift that's getting, well, the night shift is getting hit because of the day shift, because imagine coming to work at 6 PM, working 12 hours and have to work an extra 4 because they have to cover for that morning. So it's a long day on them. So 16 hours, especially working overnights, it's tough, so.
And that total from 2021, I gave you guys a 6-week snapshot. The total from last year, we had 121 force outs. So we forced 121 people to either come in early or you can't go home today. And on night shift, that was almost 96 of the 121 because of day shift. So we're forcing them to work all night and they gotta stay till 10 o'clock in the morning. That's tough.
So are they, what's their work rest cycle? I mean, are they just basically getting 8 hours off and coming right back that next?
On that force over, it depends on what day they got forced, if it's their first day or the last day of their work week. So if it's the last day of their 2-day cycle, it's not as bad as it is on the front end, but with 121 force outs in 2021, that happened a lot. And that's tough to go home, sleep, and then get back, come back to work.
Right.
And so these 5, but if we can get 4, that will help. Because our mandatory minimums we're not gonna additionally reduce our mandatory minimums, we'll hold them the same, so we're gonna help run our numbers a little bit better per shift and minimize those force outs and help keep people from being forced over.
Go ahead.
My question was when you mentioned how we eliminated those 2 positions, just so I'm sorry, I don't quite, this is the first time I've seen this, but, when you presented that first budget, did it have those 2 positions in there still?
It did, and that's just what I was
Okay.
gonna address with Mitch. That 110 line item on expenditures, jail administration, we can reduce that, and I think that's where those 2 salaries came out of. I'll have to check, make sure, but that really gets halved now.
Are you looking at this, Jeff?
Yep. I have this here. This is what he's looking at. I had the highlighted line.
What line is that?
So you'd be talking, Steve.
Salaries, assistant jail administrator, maintenance. Hang on, I'm looking at something different.
He has landscape versus portrait.
Yeah. But I mean, the line item's different too.
This is the fourth one.
Oh, I see that. Okay, so I'm with
Jail
you.
administrator.
Okay.
It looks like she has reduced that
Yep.
on this one. So yeah, it has been taken out of there. So the first time we came to you, it wasn't, but
Yeah.
between then and now, it has.
Okay.
So the sum is your budget, if we approved, it would increase about 2.5 FTEs, is that what you're saying, Steve? What number are you authorized to hire now?
Right now, we're at 83.
And you wanna go to 87?
That would give us 1 per team.
When you talk about those, what do you call them, force
Force outs.
outs?
Or mandatory, a mandatory holdover.
Are any of those voluntarily done? People volunteer to do it?
At times, again, if it's works with their home schedule, if it's their last day to work, it's not as painful to stay. If they work a Monday, Tuesday, and they worked all Tuesday night, and it's now Wednesday morning, and then we've got call-ins, they're more willing to stay to cover that next 4 hours because they don't have to come back to work that next night. But the day before, if they work all night Monday and they get forced over Tuesday, they gotta come back to work Tuesday night, and that's tough, and that's where we get those forces.
So does it work the other side too then? Are you bringing people in early? Or is it only?
Yeah, so then the supervisors scramble to try to get coverage, try to get a hold of somebody and have them come in to work early. So it's tough.
Steve, has COVID played a big part of that, the 121 last year?
Some.
I would say it's some of it because of what we went through. But the force outs were there when he and I worked there. I mean,
So most ideal would be 88. You're saying that it'd be super helpful to get to 87.
Yep.
You're currently at 83. And with the changes that you made in the administrative side, you're really only asking for 2.5 people on paper. So, is that doable though? I mean, do you think if we can get you
I'd
4?
take 8, I'd plug 2 per team if you guys would give it, but.
Yeah, no.
But we'll at least get started and let the workforce know that Sheriff Brown is serious about addressing some of the issues that we've been.
I don't think
Going
that
through.
even the 5th person's completely out of line. It's just, I'm just being totally transparent. I mean, we're just so razor thin right now with the way this budget is. And depending what commercial rollback does to us, we're just like, we're hanging on threads. So you saying that about the administrative thing like makes this decision so much better on our end. So I think, I don't think the 5th person is completely gone. I don't think that conversation should go away after today. I just think we need to maybe put that one in the hopper for right now.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's understandable.
I don't see, when we were doing our budgeting and our figures, we kind of were anticipating, you guys having more employees, but we didn't even factor in that administrative side, so.
Steve, this is also lowering overtime too, correct?
Yeah, so, I've got some information as far as where you guys see on that line item. We're at 22.9 remaining.
Yep.
So what's been driving some of that is, to not get into too much medical stuff, but we've had 4 major surgeries, long-term, surgeries that people had to have things repaired. So we had, that drove a lot of that. Long-term, we had 2 folks retire in the fall and 1 in January. So we've been down 2 additional people from the retirees. And so we've actually got some people in training right now to get those backfilled, but it would have been great to get them started a little bit sooner in training to be a little bit more ready to go when that retiree left. And then we had 1 resign 2 weeks ago. So those are kind of been some long-term things that have driven this fiscal year with some of those surgeries that we've had to deal with our workforce.
What's your total number now of employees, Steve?
So we have 83 approved. We have 10 supervisors, plus our 2 administrators.
So of the
and our 5 clerical staff.
Of the 83 that you have approved, how many are actually hired? Do you have 83?
Right now, because we lost our 1, we're at 82 on paper. But we're working with 80 because those 2 are in training.
Is your, do you advertise for that position all year long?
Yep. So we just opened here about 3 weeks ago. About 3 weeks ago. And to give you an idea of the numbers, we tested for sheriff's office January 15th. We had 14 show up. And within the first week, we were pushing that on social media for our positions. We currently have 39 have put in for that detention officer position. And we've got some good candidates. So we got some folks that we really like. So we are in that process now to get those hired to get us back up to strength at 83.
One of our big water pipes though turned off. We used to get people from Nebraska Department of Corrections, because you guys are aware of the pay situation over there. They received $10 an hour pay increases last month. And we had our first jail employee is now telling us he may quit to go back to Department of Corrections in Nebraska.
You know, I saw that advertisement for Nebraska Department of Corrections offering $25 an hour. There's a lot of small print with that too. The actual starting wage is $22 an hour, and you get a $3 shift differential.
Right.
And you know, and they say, well, yeah, we're gonna give you a $15,000 signing bonus. Well, if you read the small print on that too, that's based on experience. So
Right.
I think that they're, I mean, they can do whatever they want.
Right.
But I mean, our employees, we're gonna do everything we can to try to help you fix that, but.
Our benefits are still better. Our retirement's better, our medical's better. So that's what we're trying to advertise to the workforce, that those are the things that you gotta think about before you.
Well, they're dealing with a crazy morale situation over there too, my understanding, which is why.
Yeah, some of them are riding buses for 2 hours a day to go to Tecumseh and
Yeah.
then move back, or Tecumseh, I'm sorry. Tecumseh. I got my T's.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, the $10 an hour raise hurt us a little bit because of the fact that they were making $15 an hour, now making 25 was small print. But when Sarpy County opens here, we're probably gonna lose a couple of the Sarpy County as well, so.
You know, the board wanted the discussion with you to see where we're at, how many we really need, and just make sure that we're doing everything we can to get those people for you. Get as many for you this year as we can. I wanna go back to that number, Steve, where you have 22.92 remaining. What are the odds of you bringing that in?
Bringing that in. If we stay in the same trajectory, but I would look back to these numbers with our forced callouts in the last 6 months, or I'm sorry, in the last 6 weeks. My hope and my goal is they understand that we're sitting here trying to argue to get some more of these positions, and as that morale increases, if that number can remain the same or continue to go down, that will close that gap towards the end of this budget year. That will even continue to get a little more under control. My hope is that this trajectory remains the same versus a snapshot last year versus this year. And we're doing that. We're doing what we can. You know, we've got supervisors helping cover when we can to minimize calling people in. So we're actively trying to work on that. But we think as things increase, the morale increases, we think those call-ins are going to continue to stay at a lower rate than what they were before. And we've got some folks coming back to work that have been off due to those surgeries, so.
Hypothetically then, if you look at that, that large number there, you're working to reduce it. Possibility of lowering that for next year's, not this next fiscal year budget, but the following fiscal year?
Yeah.
Getting that number down where it's a little more manageable? I mean, that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
It is.
It's a lot of money.
Well, and just to your credit though, it's still better than what it was, so I mean, significantly better than what it was years ago, so.
Well,
I think, I'm just speaking maybe out of turn, but I do think 4 is realistic. If you guys can deal with that, I think we can deal with that. I think we can put that extra one that you talked about, that 5th one in the queue. And then if we can make things work out, I think that's doable, just based on.
Anecdotally, I think that will help with next year's fiscal overtime side. I can't obviously promise it to you because I don't know what's gonna happen, but anecdotally, I think if we get those 4 positions, we could whack something. And the sheriff still has one initiative that we're working on that would impact overtime also. So between the two, we're hopeful.
So do you have any people that are gonna be retiring that you know of this next?
Yeah, we know we have one in April, and there's potential we have one maybe late in the fall. They're still trying to decide.
Two potentially,
Mhm.
one this budget year and then one.
Yeah, April 1, and then potentially October, November-ish, if that works for their situation.
Okay.
so Steve, you mentioned that you had a pool of 39 candidates and there were some good ones in there.
Mm-hmm.
You feel they're good ones, at least
Paper.
for the eye test.
Yeah.
If we approve these positions, they're for next fiscal year. Would there be a possibility that, if they are, good quality applicants, that you would want to start them sooner?
Yeah, because we could get them in training, and we could start that for a short window, get that training started before the July 1 changeover. That would be a huge benefit for us. Because we would have the 2 that are in training now would be coming up to be done, and then we would start the hiring process over. And that would help with our training officers who are not being inundated, if we could space that out.
And Tim, we're running about 6% strong on our big salary. We could probably absorb that.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
But, I mean, is there dollars in your budget?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the name of the game is if you have good quality applicants and you want to hire them and try to work on that big number and get that down too, come to us and let us know and we'll see if we can help you.
Yeah, we were gonna use a little end of year money to help Garfield out with, some storage issues that we have out there. We've talked through that with Jason and Garfield, but we would also have money that we could get those guys going a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
You didn't find any Bitcoin
You said
in that car that was buried,
Steve will come back to us, let us know how that interview stuff's going, and then we can, we still have to put our budget together and let you know where we're gonna be.
You're heading in the right
You know,
direction.
in 6, 8 weeks from now, we might have a better idea, and we might be able to get that started. Today would be maybe a little bit premature to say, let's get them going, but maybe in 6 to 8 weeks, we would have a better number and say, we can get going. That'd be great.
We'll do whatever we can to help you, keep us posted.
Shoot it.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Up to you. All right, next up, we have Matt Wyatt, Planning and Development, Garfield Coleman, Risk Managers. Discussion, decision to approve funding for insurance required for paint at the recycling center. Garfield or Matt, what's first?
This is for, a portion of the swap shop in our building out there has spray foam insulation on the ceiling of it. And then in our secondary building that houses, our oil retention, skid loader, TVs, all of our compactors in that building. The person, when we originally purchased that property, that whole building had been spray foamed, and the majority of it is all exposed. And our insurance people were just out doing their normal surveying of the site, doing a walkthrough. Happened to this time notice the spray foam that was out there, and made note that we needed to cover it with a fire retardant material to give us
Added protection.
Yeah, added protection.
For the building and for the person that lives inside the building.
So we went out and we got a couple of bids for the project. One bid came in at just over $10,000. The other bid came in for $17,000. It's a sprayable, it's just basically a paint that you spray on over top of the spray foam to get it done. I said that I could afford to do it on July 1 when the new budgets went through. But I think we need to get it done a little bit quicker for the insurance company's satisfaction, so we don't get any kind of adjustment on our rates for that. So that's where Garfield came in.
Yep, and that's when I came in. I went to Becky and see what money that was available. And we looked at a line item, and I think the line item that we looked at, we had about $129,000 left in that line item. And so I'm asking, can we use at least $10,000 of that, $129,000 to cover the costs? For
I
spraying this
feel we
building.
probably have to.
Well, we have to, but I like to get it done sooner because the longer you leave it out there, the more the risk is to the building and to the people that's inside of that building.
They didn't give us any idea on bump in insurance rates if we don't. I hate paying them.
Yeah, I don't really wanna roll the dice on that either, though.
I hate paying insurance
It's the
companies.
fact they've identified it now, and then next year, and be like, hey, we told you, and then they just.
Yeah, well, basically what they do, they look at it, they inspect it, and then if we don't complete the repairs or whatever the case may be, they send it to the underwriter. And so they put it in a different category and say that you got a higher risk, so we're gonna charge you extra premiums because of that issue, so.
Is it a local company?
It's the same people that sprayed it.
Yeah, it's the same people that spray foamed it. They're out of Red Oak.
You know, the intent of this discussion was where we're gonna pay it from, and there's money available in our insurance line that, I think that we should probably consider using those dollars to pay for that.
Is that the line you were talking about? Garfield?
Yes.
And then what was the potential timing for the contractor then? To do it?
I didn't ask him a time frame on it, so. I mean, everything that we've asked him to do in the past, he's kind of been jumped right on it. So I think we're kind of hitting a lull with some of these smaller contractors that they're able to act pretty fast on things, so.
So does that close the building for a day or something?
It will close the building down. It'll probably be longer than a day, but we have other arrangements. You know, the swap shop doesn't have to be open. The compactor and recycling building, we'll just open up a dumpster outside that the material can go into, and then have a recycling bin outside that people can put their plastics and paper in.
Do we need a motion to approve that?
Yes. Authorize Garfield to utilize those funds in the insurance line to pay for that.
I'm gonna make a motion to authorize that.
Thank you.
10,000.
Second.
Matt, do you have any more comments?
No.
Anybody on the board have any discussion for either Garfield or Matt? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Matt, don't go anywhere. You're up next. Update concerning COVID.
So you'll give that to the insurance company so they'll know we're.
Yes, I will. Once it's completed, I got an
Well,
inspection.
show them that we've
completed.
Approved and it's in the
approved it,
process.
approved that we.
Yes.
We don't want a bump.
Right, I got you.
Okay, cool.
You want me to get you started,
What's that?
or, you know, I need to get you started?
No, we have, Mitch is gonna pull up a spreadsheet for us too that we can display up here, but, a couple of things regarding COVID-19 and what's happening, locally and at the state and federal level. So the governor, everyone heard the announcement, the governor is ending the public health emergency proclamation, as of tomorrow. And on the federal side of that, the federal disaster portion of it goes until March 31st as of right now. So he sent out the email, what does this mean for us locally as public health? And we're gonna continue to stay vigilant. for all the communicable diseases in our community while we're ending the emergency response activity directed at COVID-19. Through state grant funding, public health is going to remain involved in COVID-related activities such as vaccinations, infection control guidance, while also resuming other important public health duties, such as our new public health initiative, Vivacity. And that's going to be trying to focus everyone's attention on living in communities focused on well-being. And also for safe routes to schools as well. COVID-19 testing services will remain available. We'll help still do that through the local public health department and Test Iowa for as long as that carries on. And then there's also, you can get tested at any of your local providers, and it sounds as though Nomi Health opened back up again on 17th and Broadway. So those pieces are still out there and available. For vaccine and information on the vaccine will still be available for that as well. Our cases currently continue to drop off more, and so do our hospitalizations. Now, the state is ending the hospital's requirement to report through them to the state. So we will no longer see those regional medical reports that used to show how many people we had in the hospital with COVID, without COVID, and available beds and things. The hospital is going to report independently on up. We'll stay in communications with the hospitals as much as they need us to. We normally work with hospitals on our community health needs assessments anyways, and in other areas. So that relationship was already strong before and will continue to be strong after. We'll also continue to work with our long-term care centers and on issues that they need us available for as well. From public health myself, I definitely have to thank you all and all the other elected officials in the cities and the small towns for supporting us through the emergency response that we had. You asked a lot of the hard questions when you needed to and offered to help, and that is what made the response such a success. Iowa West Foundation, Matt Hinkes, Deb DeBott, Pete and Brenda also deserve a special community thank you. They really took care of our homeless population and food security needs. And all I had to do with them was just ask, and they made sure that it was taken care of for us. What I wanted to have Mitch pull up here today, because there's been, we've had lots of different discussions about the COVID funding that's come in to the public health department and expenses that we made throughout COVID. So I went back for the last 3 fiscal years to show what was expended, and this is from our COVID-19 emergency preparedness expense. That was the account line item that realistically everything got wrapped into. So for the 3 fiscal years, we've spent $1.495 million. When you start to break that amount down a little bit, we paid the cleaning contractors $510,000 to have those roving crews around here doing the sanitation. We spent $300,000 on upgrades to all the conference rooms throughout the county. That wasn't just here at the courthouse. That extended out where we have the nice, simple, easy ways to hook on and do video conferencing now and hold all those different meetings. David in the IT department led that up. The ADI systems, I think that turned out to be a really great project. There was pass-through funding of around $150,000. That was what Iowa West passed through to us, to the hospitals, so the hospitals could purchase some equipment that they needed. Each one had different requests that came in, but it came down through us. And then we also did HVAC upgrades, and that was for those air scrubbers that they put on not only the courthouse, but that included like the furnace we installed temporarily over community services. We put those air scrubbers into a couple other buildings as well. They're supposed to take all of the all the virus and out of the air as it was going through. So for the past 3 years, I mean, when you look back at this realistically, as far as material-like items and other contract service, so this is something physical that we would have had or contract service that we would have had, we spent $435,000 centralized towards public health and COVID-19 on items that went out. And then, can you jump over to the payroll expenses?
Matt, if I can stop you right there for just 1 second. Where is the cost for the leasing of the Mid-America Center.
That was in that $435,000. So it was really reasonable to us at the times that we utilized them, but I just wanted to give you an overall, everything that we spent money like that out of, whether it was for the Mid-America Center, some vaccine supplies, all of that went into that COVID expense line item. So, now, payroll-wise, this is for your public health department. Over the last 3 years, again, we're right at $1.4 million that we spent in payroll. And that has your FICA, IFRS, and insurance, everything involved in that. But that was for all of the disease investigators that we hired, all the temporary staff that we brought on. That would have had Garfield, Jakes, Nix, all of those people that were involved got paid from these line items here. So $1.4 million. Again, not too bad for 3 years worth of response that we put in. Can we go over to funding now? You go scroll all the way to the top. So looking back at how the public health department got their funding when we initially found, COVID hit and we were all figuring out what we're going to do, what we're going to plan. Board of Supervisors originally allocated over the $400,000 and then ended up doing another budget amendment in fiscal year 2021 for $1 million. We were able to bring in some state grants on the grant funding. The initial one was for the $56,000 that helped with our Spanish translators, also helped pay for a language line. We got an initial response grant from the state of Iowa. All this was Iowa Department of Public Health grants that came down through on this part of it. That offered us $34,000. That was in the fiscal year 19-20. We are now receiving grant dollars for vaccine equity. That's $199,000. Vaccine support, $169,000. And then we have an opportunity to help out with the jails and the homeless population. That totals around $161,000. That's a 1 year availability to us on that. So if we ended up hiring somebody, it's a 1 year hire is all that's ever going to be good for. It's to help them with their infection control in those areas and set up potential testing programs if they would need to. The way I look at that funding, that part of the funding right there, it's a little bit too late. The jails and the confinement facilities all reached out to us early on. Public Health had to put their hands up and say, hey, we can't help you. Now Iowa Department of Public Health is coming back saying, hey, go back to them and tell them you can help them. They really don't want to hear it, and I don't blame them for that part. They figured it out, and it works for them. But we do have that available to us, and I started talks with Sheriff and the Chief Deputy to see if we can't maybe expand that over into some other areas for them. They're also giving us one-time grant money to upgrade our IT systems for public health, $299,660. So in total, we got right out of $921,000 coming in out of grant dollars for them. Those are grants that we have to spend and then get reimbursement for. Now the reimbursement process is usually very quick once we turn in the reimbursement for it. The time tracking that it takes to put in for that is very complicated and tedious on everybody. Everybody has to track every hour of their day. Enter it into a giant, massive spreadsheet. It gets broke down by another person. It gets entered into Iowa grants and it gets reimbursed to us. But we do get those funds back, which is good. We also then have our annual grant funding from the state and other sources. These are grants that come in every year. Throughout the year, we get $186,000. That is for your integrated HIV viral hep testing. It's our STD testing treatments. We will be coming in for a $20,000 amendment on that grant. Yearly, it's $154,000. This year, we're up to $186,000, and that's because when other agencies across the state do not use their funds, then they start breaking it down and sending it to the individuals who can use it, who have a plan to use it. So they always call and ask us, and we're really good about responding. So they're going to give us another $20,000 to expand on that. When you look at what that does for us, that program was just in Council Bluffs before. They would try to kind of do outreach outside of it before we got a hold of it. Now that we have a hold of it, they would do 100 tests a year, hope to maybe get to 150. That was really exciting for them to do that. We're over 1,500 tests per year that we do in that program. So we've really ramped up our efforts. We cover 11 counties with it. We're very active in that aspect of it, but it wasn't the only thing that we ever wanted to be known for. We didn't want to just be known for handing out condoms and doing STD testing. We realized that there's a problem and it's needed, but we're meeting that need for them. Personal responsibility is a new grant to us. That is the Wise Guys program. If any of you have had some young sons that have gone to school lately, they may have been offered to go through the Wise Guys program. My son went through it. It's a really great class on just being comfortable with your masculinity, and they teach you a little bit about STDs and offer you where services are available for. So we took that program over. It's $30,000 that we get, and that's to expand it out into rural Potawatomi County. So we're working on that part of it. That will probably take a good year or two to fire up to see full effect of actually being in a school and doing that, because you have to really build those trusts with the school boards to get in there, right? Our immunization grant, that's a yearly grant, around, it varies anywhere from, usually hovers around 18,000 to 22,000 is about all we get out of it. They upped it a little bit because of COVID, so we're $30,000 on that one. Tobacco prevention and use, that was a new grant to us. We get $48,000, but $17,000 of it is passed through to Heartland Family Services. They're a partner with us on that, and they do some of the work. So they send us a bill. We go through. We enter it into Iowa grants, but we have to pay them. We get paid back. Then we have our normal preparedness grant. I've just put $7,000 in there for it. That is going to be a grant that you will see widely expand in the public health department. Currently, Mills County is a fiscal agent for that grant. It's for the whole coalition of emergency preparedness people around here. We're going for the fiscal agent of that. It belongs here in Potawatomi County. I've been told by 2 of the board of supervisors in Mills County and the auditor down there that, they almost fund their whole health department off of that grant from us. It brings in personnel, it brings in funding. And we are the major stakeholder in that. And that funding realistically belongs with us because we have the most work to do and most partners to be in touch with as far as emergency preparedness goes. I've made it clear with the state of Iowa that we'll be pursuing that as a fiscal agent, and we'll be able to divvy that out. It doesn't come available until 2025, but when that fiscal agent comes available, if Mills County doesn't decide to give it up first, then it'll be 2025 when you see that expand. Omaha Women's Fund. That $100,000 is born out of a relationship with Iowa West Foundation, again, and that is for health education. They give it to Omaha Women's Fund, it comes over to us. That keeps our Iowa Western clinic up and functioning. For those of you who haven't been out to see the Iowa Western office, if you get a chance at some point in time in the Student Services building, you go up there on the 2nd floor, they gave us this year a really nice space. Dr. Kenny and his staff, I can't compliment them enough from where they put us at. It fits right in with that student life cycle of it. And the office offers more privacy. We have there's 2 people out there. They're able to get information to all the students, and they're just available for the students. And we do a lot of work with the foreign exchange students out there as well, just helping them make sure that they got what they need, or people who are going to travel abroad, making sure that they have what they need. But as much as any other health service that we can offer for them, it's a great location for us to be at, great partnership, love it. Our local public health grant is $203,000 this year. That's your normal Board of Health grant that comes down from Iowa Department of Public Health. They give you a certain amount of activities that you get to operate off of, that you get to build back towards it. It used to be a lot higher than that. Of course, that's one of the funds that the state keeps cutting back on. As you talk to your state representatives, if you could kind of, give a pitch in, they really should be diverting money from Iowa Department of Public Health and sending that more down to the local level so we can do some work. That's the grant that it needs to come through, your local public health grant. There's 17 activities that you can choose from to operate off of in your county and bill back to that. At one point in time, just not too long ago, that was $400,000 a year that used to come down. So that shows you how much that they've cut it back over the last, 6 years probably, that money is really taking a strain on.
So, just back to the first preparedness grant, if you are able to apply for that or be the fiscal agent for that, is it a multi-year grant or?
Yes.
Okay, because it's got yearly up there for now. how many year grant is that?
I think it's a 5-year cycle on it.
5 years? And then what is the total of that based on the population of the region or something, or what?
Yes, it's the population of the region, and they say a few other factors, which I would imagine is the number of hospitals that you have.
Okay. So roughly, like, right, this year it would have been, you got a ballpark number, you got 7,000, the piece of it that we got for that.
Do you know?
I don't know what the total grant was for that because it rolls in 12 counties, EMS, the hospitals, and public health for the 12 counties.
Okay.
There's a lot of funding.
The Mills County's running that.
Mhm.
Do they have who's the person that's running that for them?
It's Julie Lyons.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So when Sherry was running it, they would hold back. They realized that we're the kind of the audience that's for. Sherry would hold us back about $60,000 that we could bill towards for it. Julie's taken the position that it needs to be divided out equally across that entire region. I've taken the total opposite approach to that, where no, it's not. That we have a lot more partners that we have to work with. We're working on preparedness activities every day. That's why that funding is there. And so that's kind of the reason why we're going to go after the fiscal agent piece of it, so we don't have to have these arguments anymore.
But the funding doesn't, the hospitals don't get that funding directly.
They're able to get some funding through it, yes.
Okay.
There's silos.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And if we keep going, so if we go down a little bit further, private foundation funding, these were private foundation funds that we were able to bring in during COVID-19. Total of $82,000. They covered everything from help at the Test Iowa site modifications, snacks and water for the vaccine site, hotel rooms for long-term care staff, and the shower trailer that we positioned up at the hospitals and then down at the homeless shelter as well. And then as far as federal CARES funding that came in, with 3 different shipments of that as it came in, $1.7 million in that. And then we had just some pass-through funding. A lot of that was from the COVID relief fund that they were passing through public health to them, to the other agencies as they applied through. So your $150,000 in there, CHI Methodist. We did the Mask Up campaign. We did another campaign with the CB Chamber, and then Advanced Southwest Iowa, $10,000 for the Back to Biz. Oakland Fire and Rescue received funding for their Zoller unit as they were transporting all those patients from Oakland Manor. They had some upgrades that they had to make on there. So, I'm not sure, can you scroll down just a little bit further, Mitch? Okay, no, that's good, sorry. So if you look at all of the funding that we were able to bring in through COVID-19, and then you look at where the expenses landed at, I think you'll find that the leadership group was very conscientious as we went through this to make sure that we were doing right by the taxpayers and right by the budget as well. But overall, I think we came in, realistically ahead of where we were. So not too bad of a job, I don't say so.
Where is the revenue showing, Matt, for the federal reimbursement through FEMA?
That's not on here yet because we won't receive any of those funds until around September of this year.
Is there any estimate to the number, to that dollar amount?
We're submitting for $2.5 million.
The other question I have for you is, when you mentioned a lot of these grants we have to spend first and then send in reimbursements for those.
Mm-hmm.
Who's putting together the reimbursements for us?
Maria.
Can you handle all that, Maria?
Yep. At some point, we do need to bring on a fiscal agent because we have quite a few grants, and when we pick up that preparedness one, that'll be significant because that one will have 12 separate or 11 other counties billing to us. So there'll be a lot additional paperwork with that one.
With the governor's announcement ending her proclamation tomorrow, will the grant dollars start to go away? You don't anticipate more grants, do you, or do you?
So the state had some additional COVID money and they've ceased requesting applications for that. They're gonna restructure that money. I don't know how they're gonna send it out, but I believe there will still be that opportunity because the state still has the money for those that they've gotten. So I see additional COVID money becoming available. I just don't know what format it'll be in for us.
Last question from me. How many employees do we have in public health now?
We have about 25.
How many of them are funded by grants? I guess that's two questions.
I would say most of them.
Can you get that for me?
I can. The recycle center ones are not. Animal control is to a certain degree.
No, I was thinking more in the actual personal public health arena, not animal control, not the recycling center, not environmental.
So if you looked at that, all of our nursing, you could say all of the nurses that we have are grant-based. But we do not, they cover their positions through grants. But we are not a grant-based health department. So we set that budget with the county. We show the grants coming in as revenues. But if we're gonna lose a grant, we have time to go find other funding to make up for that revenue, to cover our expense.
So we attempt to fund all of them at 100% with grants. The clerk is probably the least funded out of all of them, but everybody's funded by grants.
So you have 4.
What was that you just said, the least? Which one?
The clerk.
Oh.
Is it your intention to keep 25 nurses on?
We don't have 25 nurses on, that's 25 employees.
Okay, 25 employees.
We have 4.
5 nurses.
Do we have 5?
We just hired one.
Okay.
So, if, let's just say at the end of the year, you were able to cover by grants, I mean, the remaining money just was never really pulled out of the general then, or whatever. Said fund, it goes back to fund balance, is that?
Right.
And do we know what that figure is? Are we able to determine that?
We don't right now.
That might help, I don't know how difficult it is to figure out, but it might help us kind of determine where you were and where you are today, you know, so that way, just with our forecasting.
The budget amendment that we came in for on February 1st, covered all of our COVID-19 related grants with the state to the end of the budget year.
Okay.
Because those we set the budget, March of the year before. We didn't get those contracts from the state until starting in October, November, and December is when those grant contracts came in saying, hey, you have this amount of funding you can spend. So that was when we switched over and started operating and quit building up a FEMA reimbursement and started just spending those state grants, because the state grants come back to us a lot quicker. And then, so there's a cutoff on your FEMA reimbursement. That's all that you're going for. We're no longer in that mode. We haven't been for a long time. We've just been entering in data to get what's owed to us back. We've been moving forward, operating off of strictly those grant contracts. Like the $299,000 for IT upgrades, I put that into next year's budget. And there's also then some of the other funding with the health equity and the vaccine support that is also in next year's budget, because the funding doesn't end June 1st or June 30th. We have the ability to spend that funding through 2024, I believe. And so that's why it's shifted across a couple of different budget cycles for us. But we will be billing back to the state and receiving those funds.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think it just helps us explain the story of, if you're not overtaxing, then why is your fund balance still going up? And then we can be able to say, well, here's why. That's all I'm after. I don't really necessarily care how I do care, but not.
No, I can understand those questions.
This is my point. I'm just saying I'd like to know, if I'm able to explain that you were able to get $1 million to cover your $1 million of expenses, but we'd already budgeted $1 million, that's why your fund balance went up $1 million. Something like that, whatever it is.
And we won't always have this many different contracts with the state of Iowa, but I would like to be able to come into the board every time one of those contracts comes up. So then that way the Board of Supervisors can hear that, hey, we got a $20,000 grant extension on our HIV, hepatitis testing referral services grant. And that's going to allow us to do these activities. And then I had brought it up, and I don't remember which board member I brought it up to, but they're like, well, is that still being a big problem in Pot County? And it's like, it's not a big problem, but it is definitely a needed service when you look at, that's one of those things, you're not gonna go get tested for it unless you kind of think maybe you have something going on. So then when they come in and get tested for us, yes, you see higher positivity rates. Out of the last testing event we did, I think our positivity rate was a 46% positivity rate between the number of tests that we did. But you're not necessarily coming in and getting tested for an STD unless you're not just going to get checked. I mean, but we want people to feel that good about getting checked, that there should be no issue with it, and, take away the social stigmas and all that. Because that's the motive that we're getting, those are the gears that we're getting back into, right? When we finish the launch of Vivacity as our new public health initiative, and it's out there, and we're really in there working with employers trying to address those social determinants of health on the employer level, zip code to their area. I mean, that's gonna be the new thing for public health to be out there doing. I mean, it'll be something really positive for the community to rally behind, and we can leave all the kind of negativeness behind it.
So other than the 2.5 million that we're gonna probably hopefully get from FEMA sometime, is there any other monies out there that we're waiting for from anybody else?
We should have the opioid settlement coming in at some point this year, or starting. We don't have the exact figures on that, but we've kind of briefly chatted on if you guys are making some plans to use some of that.
Yeah.
That was a 10-year payment, right?
Yeah.
What was that a year?
I don't remember what it was. I thought, just spitballing here, don't hold me to it, I think it was 2.5 million over 10 years. There was some talk that they might try to do a one lump sum settlement. That's still being discussed, so it might come in one bunch, but we'll see.
And those funds can only be spent in public health.
Only, and for opioids only.
Only for opioid.
Prevention and treatment.
Yeah.
That's
But is there any other monies that are due us from state?
Not due to us. We're always seeking out more funding opportunities, but nothing that is hanging over the state's head or that we're out there beating on a door trying to get the money from.
Okay.
I mean, I guess at the end of the day, I'm hearing that you guys worked your tails off and were able to cover what was expended by COVID. I mean, that's really, at the end of the day, it didn't come at a cost to the county. I mean, it cost us time, it cost us money up front, but you were able to kind of cover the spread over time. That's incredible. So, I mean, thank you for that, both of you, and all your staff and everyone who did that.
Once
pretty amazing.
FEMA reimbursement comes in, it'll pick that up.
Oh, sure, but I mean, look at the rest of the state. I mean, I would say, and I'm willing to challenge this, that there's probably not very many counties that are sitting in the boat that we are, based on what we were able to accomplish, so.
If you scroll down through right now, this is kind of the reason why I wanted to show this point to you. If you scroll down through this funding that is available now, the CARES funding that came in, the 1.7 million, the 82,000 right there, all covered a portion of that cost. The 605, we're currently billing that out right now. And then if you go up even further, and then portions of that 921,000. So there was 2.8 million in expenses. We've almost covered all of that funding that was expended out right now. So if there's a large portion of cash reserve or something like that, to me, that's out, and if you're getting directed at, well, it went to public health, no, it did not. We reimbursed almost every single thing that we've taken out has already been reimbursed. And that the CARES funding is kind of the key to that, because when we went after the CARES funding, Janet worked her tail off on this with the state auditing company that was there at the time. They allowed us to bring that back in, as our claim to it was budgeted payroll expenses for public health and the sheriff's office for fiscal year 19 and 20. So that fiscal year 19 and 20, it was budgeted, not overtime, not anything out of the ordinary, just whatever we had in our budget that year, we were allowed to claim back and get that $1.2 million in CARES funding. So they worked through all the payroll issues that she had to work through, submitted those reports, and that's what that portion of it came in. And so realistically, I mean, there shouldn't be if there's anything bigger than just a couple $100,000, I mean, then we should be looking at where else it went, because it didn't come to public health to be spent on this. I mean, we're there. We covered it.
Maria?
Yeah.
How many times have you got
An email, with a grant just falls into your lap with an email.
This last year, probably twice.
who writes the rest of the grants?
So we work with Fox Creek to write the grants.
Is that, if you were to, if things keep progressing along, and you said you wanted to consider some fiscal agent or fiscal person,
Would that person be able to write grants as well? Is that part of the plan or is it not part of the plan?
Really, the fiscal person is strictly just for medical billing
Reimbursement?
and for reimbursement. So there's additional billing we do besides the grants as far as working with the medical billing company, and that's a piece that we transition in-house.
Who's doing the medical building now? Who's doing it now?
I'm sorry?
Who's doing it now, the medical building?
Practice Synergy out of Des Moines.
We do a portion of it, and then our clerk does a portion of it and submits it over to Practice Energy, and then they enter it all in for us, because they've gone through the credentialing process for that.
What's that generally cost us?
It doesn't cost us really anything. They take a portion of whatever they get a bill, which we don't have a whole lot to bill medical billing wise. That's usually our flu shots. And when we do the flu clinics, then that's where we go get it, and I mean, it's a couple $100, I would say at most. I mean, it's really not, because we don't bill that much, you know.
All right.
We'll try to, eventually that'll be one of those things that we build in-house, when you get somebody who can actually work through the credentialing process. And
Tell the board when you expect the reimbursement from FEMA.
September of this year. That's when it will start coming in. It's not gonna be, it's getting entered in different projects. September of this year is when it'll start coming in, and then.
Those funds will go right back into our cash reserve, right?
Or bonus for me, whatever you chose, but if it goes cash reserve, I'm fine with that.
So by September of 2023, do you think we'll have it all back then?
I would hope so. I mean, this FEMA, I'm really positive about the FEMA rep we have. We've had a meeting with him. He seems really great to work with. He's enthusiastic about what we submitted so far. He's been really helpful in guiding Whit O'Brien to get those things put in there. And so, it's just that he really wanted it broken out into all these projects. So we broke it up a little bit further for him, and it's getting in there and getting through there, but September still seems to be the key target date.
So the money will go from FEMA to the state and then to us?
I imagine so.
Okay.
I don't like that.
If you can do anything to straighten out the FEMA process, you'll be president.
I'll be president.
Yeah,
You're awesome.
it's a horrible system.
All right. So is there how many buckets of pieces or whatever you wanna call those are we waiting?
Projects?
Of the 2.5, do you break it into?
6.
6. Okay. Thank you.
All right, any other questions
Thanks,
for
Maria.
Matt or Maria? Matt and Maria, thanks for all you do, I really appreciate it.
Give away,
Awesome.
other than obviously this meeting, I mean, you're sharing the story somehow, right? I mean, are you making this available, PowerPoint or presentation on?
So we will be coming back to you. A few of you may have talked to Brian Manwaring. We've had him working on an after-action overview for us. He's talked to the schools, he's talked to the Rotary groups, he's talked to the mayor, he's talked to some of the elected officials, Scott here, and EMA, and those people were putting together just an overview document for us. We've already started going through what our key findings are. We didn't want to just come in and say, hey, here are the issues we saw popped up. We're going to come in here with our findings and solutions and how we're working towards them. But then everybody's going to have their section involved in there. The funding aspect of it will be one portion that we show. to everyone, because I think throughout the whole deal, everybody was concerned about what this was costing for the community. So for us to be able to show that, we did it in the way we did, I think everybody should be pretty proud of that. I would think in May is when we're gonna come with that document to show everyone. And then we'll release that kind of out publicly for everybody to see. Where we're going right now, back through the interviews and just making sure everybody was okay with our quotes and things that are gonna be used in there and.
Good deal.
Right.
Yeah.
Anything else from that, everyone?
That's something to be celebrated, so great work.
Thanks, you guys.
All right, Tom and Teresa, I know you've been sitting here for a minute, but the board's gonna take about a 5-minute break, okay, we'll be right back.
You betcha. Where's your park? One other time,
Yeah, we told her that the citations start today.
my meter should be running out anytime now. It's okay. Charge it to the Dodge House.
I can run out there.
No. No, I'm parked on Main.
Oh, gotcha.
About, yeah. Yeah, well, I try to park a little further if I can. My left knee is going out.
Oh, no.
Had meniscus surgery in August, and it helped a little bit, but not much. So I think I'm looking forward to it.
A new knee. You're so young for a new knee.
Rock climbing, mountain climbing, backpacking,
Right.
mountain biking, jogging, trail running.
I've had my knees scoped a couple years ago, but I've been pretty lucky now. It's my hips.
I've been told that some forms of hip surgery are now less invasive than knee surgery. Because one form of hip surgery, they don't have to cut the muscles.
Right.
They just put it on in. I have no idea how that works.
Yeah, I suppose this is more.
Here they've got to cut bone and.
Right.
Yeah.
It sucks getting old.
I would gladly trade some wisdom for some youth.
Just a little bit. Okay.
You got a closing on?
A walkthrough, just for new construction.
Is there such a thing around here?
I've gone up, so I've read the builder at this new subdivision. I'm kind of at the blue and white water tower. But I have gone up in 3 years. The cost to build, I've gone up $100,000.
There's nowhere to build.
30% increase. I used to be able to meet by at 250, 275. Now I struggle to be at 350. It's gotten just so stupid. Well, I was talking, they were asking me about real estate and now the housing. So in Council Bluffs, if you do a search and just put in Council Bluffs, so anything with the Council Bluffs address, and no price range, 23 houses active for sale.
There's nothing.
And 3 of those are models that really aren't for sale. So 20. I started freaking out last fall. I only got under 100. Now it's like,
But you seem to have a good amount of listings. I'm gonna have to tell.
no, we're way low. We're way low. But they and anything that comes on that's decent, snatched up.
I think you did well picking your little house on Fifth Avenue.
Oh yeah, I've got both sides that
So you've got income.
Yeah, yes. So my daughter was on the one side, my son was on the other. So she wanted to be on her own, you know, so she's got a cute little apartment in Midtown. Yeah, she turns 20 next week. She works at Little Saddle Creek Breakfast Club. You know, good breakfast. Saddle Creek Breakfast Club. And so she's 3 minutes from work. But my son is, so he's on the suit. I just rented that out to a gentleman. I think he's from Ethiopia. And his boys. It's just a wonderful gentleman. Then my son. No, he hasn't yet. I haven't had Ethiopian food, but I bet that's good. But, so my son, there's an area down in Pacific Junction that FEMA has deemed uninhabitable just because of where it's located. And there were houses built on that in the early 2000s that were split levels. So Garrett knew a guy that bought all these houses up and moved them to some land he owned. And so he bought a house and as soon as he bought it, he's got a little chunk of land between here and Glenwood that moved to a foundation.
Above the floodplain, I hope.
Yeah.
At least in theory, who knows now?
Oh, right. But, so he's building, he'll be in there in a couple of months. So you're located then on?
They're in the yellow house with the American flag and the banners.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
It's a great little house.
How long have you been
8 years.
It's so awesome that you could do that in that neighborhood.
I have pictures of it being built in 1906.
Last night.
Pretty good game. I was going for Bengals, but.
I wanted to see him, but
Yeah,
it was fun.
it was.
It was good right to the end.
It was.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah, no problem.
I was worried that we were gonna miss the deadline.
No.
Yeah. Other than bad news.
Okay, thanks for that, Tom. Next up on the agenda, we have Tom Emmett, Executive Director of the Historical Dodge House, and we have Teresa Markey with us as well. So Tom, you're up.
You betcha. Greetings from the trustees of the Dodge House. I'm here with their support, and the trustees are funding, hopefully ongoing funding from the county in 2 areas. One, $15,000 a year. We've had historically had run short between 20 and 30 a year, and so the 15,000 a year would be for our general operations fund, and that budget's reflected in your handout. And I have some good news. The city has decided, the mayor's office has decided to recommend to the city council that our annual stipend be increased from $75,000 a year to $100,000 a year. And so the mayor's office and hopefully the city council is behind the Dodge House, trying to make sure we have enough money, would you mind, to get our business done. The second half of my request is $50,000 a year only for grant matching funds. So for example, Iowa West Foundation, when they do a grant, they only give you half of what you need. And so I would only ask for anything towards that 50,000 for matching. And the good news and the benefit of oversight for the county is we've already gone through the grant writing process and demonstrated that program is meritorious. You have the budget for operations, but what you don't see is the between $75,000 to $175,000 a year that we grant raise to improve the property or to preserve it. So this year, replacing the Bertram House porch, as you know, but also repairing the main porch of the Dodge House, the southeast porch of the Dodge House, plumbing and electrical audits, all that's in your packet. But I just want to make sure that our ask was clear. And while you're looking at stuff, just for fun, I brought you our most recent printed newsletter, some history to take home, reading before bed. It's springtime. We're doing some really good work. Numbers are up.
We're having a great time.
What's your average year of people through there?
Yeah, that's in your packet, towards the end. Right now, it's lower than I'd like it to be, but you'll see that, in 19, we had 3,600 visitors. In 2021, almost 4,000. You can also see our volunteer hours and our admission income. That's on page 7 of the packet I provided you.
Okay. What's your budget cycle start, and like how soon do you need to know about this from the county?
It's at your convenience. Our budget cycle is based on the calendar year.
Okay. So I'm just being totally honest with you, I'm a little hesitant doing anything right now. I'm not saying no, and I'm not saying yes. I want to really figure out where we land on our budget before I make a recommendation on what we should provide.
I'd be happy with a maybe.
Yeah,
I'll say maybe.
Yeah, first off, and I'm not sure if any of you have been there recently, but I mean, that place is amazing. It's a part of our community that we always want to see be there. So I think there's commitment that we want to be a partner in this. I just don't know. I'm very hesitant to do anything today. But I think we need to keep that ask in the queue, so when we get to the final numbers of our budget, we know where we can land.
And gentlemen, I understand that, and that's precisely what I expected. Another benefit with the $50,000 part is when I go to a grant maker, one that doesn't know us as well. For example, Iowa West has never denied us a grant, ever. But, when we're building a new relationship, if I go in saying our county will match this grant in part, that really helps me sell the grant, which makes it a lot easier. And another concern also, if I may, is just if you look at our budget, you see that our total staffing amount for 2 people is $77,000. So I make a little under 45, my assistant makes 33, no benefits. We both have good spouses that have good jobs. I wonder and worry in the future, what happens? We've always been lucky with the Dodge House. We've always got somebody that's done it because they want to, because they're passionate, and they had a good spouse with a good job. So I'm thinking 10 years from now, when I'm done, how do we make sure the Dodge House will always be there as our city, and if I may, as our county's crown jewel?
There's a couple things, usually we use gaming revenue to support these causes. And it looks like gaming revenue is declining for us at the present time. And then for grants, I think we would entertain those as they come in. If you take the 50K, are you thinking about taking it and holding it as a placeholder?
I would come to you, so I'd say we have a grant from X or Y Foundation for this much.
Right.
And they need this much of a matching. And so we'd ask it when we got the grant and received it.
Okay.
Whatever is most convenient for your system.
Well, no, that was because you came and asked for, what was it, for the porches or porch?
$1,000 for the porch, but primarily because a minority of grant makers require that the institution have county support, and so that's the box I was after.
Okay, and that came from the Historical Society of Iowa, the grant?
The grant for the porch is a 3-way between Iowa West Foundation, the Sutherland Foundation, and Union Pacific, and the city. The city's popping in a lot of money.
And us, right?
Yes, for the 1,000, yeah.
Is that, we were granted $1,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
The total amount for the porch will be around 110.
Okay.
So, let me understand, so you may not necessarily come, I guess the way I understood the request is you're asking for 50 and then plus an additional 15.
For operations.
You're wanting that annually, or are you saying that annually you'll come and you want us to earmark X dollars, so that way if you find these grants, you can ask us?
So 15,000 a year for operations, and then when we get a grant, say we get a grant for a $100,000 project, Iowa West gives us 50, and we come to you for the other 50.
Gotcha. Okay.
or I'm running a grant to the state, they require a 25% match. I might say part of that match is coming from the Dodge House, part is coming from the county.
Yep.
Again, grant makers like to see people that have a lot of people putting money into a bucket because it shows relationship and shows connection.
So then, you don't also use the portion of the 100 that the city gives you as a matching grant money?
So it's not 100 yet, currently it's 75, but God willing, if the city council approves it, it will be 100. Generally, my board is very fiscally conservative, and generally what they do is they use the 75 the city gives us for salaries. And then everything else, staff raises to operate the house in terms of, well, you have the income streams there in front of you.
Right.
While we don't have a county attorney here, any funds that Potawatomi County would give to any organization has to
show an economic development impact, and operation funds would not fall into that category, in my opinion, although our county attorney isn't here.
If I may, in terms of economic impact, I went to the council.
Economic development.
Oh, okay, sorry. Gotcha.
And that would be any amount would have to show that. So I'm with Supervisor Schultz. I think maybe we can, if there was something that you had
special project for we might consider.
And as Scott mentioned, with casinos opening in Nebraska, some of the funding that we provide to nonprofit organizations for economic development, as those funds dwindle, which we expect them to, the highest estimate I've seen is 47%. So if that were to happen, there's some existing donations that the Potawatomi County Board already provides that'll probably get another look and see if we could even maintain the funding for those.
I guess where I'm at, just to clarify, is I want to make sure we figure out where we land on this budget cycle so we know what kind of monies we have available. With that being said, if it takes us a few weeks to get back to you on that, or a month or whatever, if you have another grant opportunity that shows up and you need match, don't hesitate to come back. Because I want you to know that we are a partner with you and we're not going to just leave you high and dry. I don't want to commit a set amount of money until I know that I'm comfortable that we can do that, So, but if you get something that comes in right now, and you might, I don't know what that could be, but if you did, I don't want you to not come talk to us just because we didn't give you an answer.
Okay, thank you. That feels great.
But I think, I don't know, I would say with about a month or so, we should be able to give you an answer.
Okay.
One way or another.
And what's a good way for me to follow up on that?
I would go through Jeanette, our.
Okay, sure, I know Jeanette.
Or you can give me a call,
yeah,
whatever.
Tim,
And then I want to make sure the board is still aware that we are working with Golden Hills RC&D and down Southwest Iowa West Foundation
Pace, we got them all.
for economic development in all of our small towns. We set aside some funds for matching grants for those on their specific projects as far as economic development goes. So, we've committed a lot of funds already towards that endeavor, but I think having an open mind about it's certainly the direction we should probably take. Teresa, Tom, do you have any other questions, concerns?
Not at all. I appreciate the time and the consideration and the thoughtfulness. Yeah, a lot to balance for you folks.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Have a wonderful day.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry.
So we can bring our parking tickets back up here?
Yeah.
You guys are awesome, thanks.
Have a wonderful day, folks. We appreciate all the work you do.
Thank you. All right, next up, we have Becky Lenahan, I believe. Discussion and decision to approve appointment of Bruce Potter to the Waveland Township trustee, as a Waveland Township trustee.
So does the board, I was reading your email about that, so does the board get to decide whether or not that is not an elected position, or is that?
They chose to.
They chose to?
They chose that, it was on the ballot back in, I wanna say 2016 possibly, to where they have, the board appoints their trustees and clerk. They've had the same ones since I've been up here. The reason for the new one, I was contacted by Janet Shearer. She's the clerk. Mike Lovell, that served for many, many years, passed on January 13th, so they're in need of appointing a new one.
I know it's hard out there to get people to serve.
It is.
It's very hard, so I'll make a motion to approve this.
Second.
Now, every township could do this if they wanted to, right?
Right.
Yes, they could, and it would be wonderful if they did, but.
It would be, then we don't have, there would be no elections.
Right.
No township elections,
Right.
but they have to, I think, do they have to reimburse us for the elections? Do they get billed too?
Townships, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Really?
I don't think so.
Everybody else has to.
Where's the Waveland Township at?
Out by Griswold.
That very bottom corner.
I think it might be where Melvin lives. Does he live in Wayland?
No, he's in Grove.
No.
Okay, any other questions or discussions for Becky? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. John, I apologize. I am going to move your closed session to second. So right now, I would entertain a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Iowa Code 21.5, parent 1, parent J, for discussion and or decision on the purchase of sale of particular real estate. Shannon, would you let John know that it's probably gonna be about 10 or 15 minutes?
Yeah.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Close session.